Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Grim and Guilty.
You ever hear about the Kray twins? Ronnie and Reggie Kray were born October 24th, 1933. Two brothers from London who somehow managed to be charming, terrifying, glamorous, and completely unhinged all at the same time. Their story feels like a crime movie, except it all actually happened. So they were born in Haggerston, East London. They were identical twins. They had an older brother and an older sister who died in infancy. The twins' mother, Violet, was the heart of the family. Violet had gone through a lot. She lost a child before the twins. So when Ronnie and Reggie came along, she poured everything into them. The boys could do no wrong in her eyes. Now, their father, Charlie Sr., was basically the opposite. He was a quiet tailor who tried to keep his head down. He wasn't a criminal, didn't run with gangs, wasn't violent. In fact, he was away a lot, working as a dealer on ships during the war and after. Because he was gone so much, Violet's influence dominated the household. Charlie Sr. never had much control over the boys, and there's report that he was a heavy drinker. Mr. Kray was conscripted at the start of World War II, but reportedly went into hiding rather than serve. During that time, he lived as a fugitive, stayed on the run, and avoided military service for many years. When the Kray twins were 18, they were drafted for national service in 1951, but they pretty much made it clear from day one that they had no intention of becoming soldiers. They ended up attacking a police officer and landed themselves in jail for a month. And their time behind bars was total chaos. They caused so much trouble, throwing a latrine bucket over a sergeant, locking a guard to the cell bars, even setting their own beds on fire, that the military finally gave up on them altogether. And not long after called them up, the twins were booted out with a dishonorable discharge, leaving no doubt they weren't cut out for army life. So, London in the 1950s and 60s, the East End was tough, full of people just trying to survive a rough post war life. And then you got these two identical twins growing up scrappy, already throwing punches as teenagers, getting into street fights, and basically becoming local legends before they were even legal adults. And when they were younger, they were amateur boxers. Their grandfather, Jimmy Cannonball Lee, had been a knuckle bear boxer, so fighting ran in the family. The twins eventually opened up a nightclub. And it wasn't just any club, it was the spot. Actors, politicians, musicians, models, everyone wanted to be there. Imagine a smoky room full of celebrities, drinking, laughing, dancing, and in the middle of that, you got these two sharply dressed gangsters who controlled everything from protection rackets to illegal gambling. So Ronnie was the volatile one. He was unpredictable, violent, and paranoid. You never knew what would set him off. Reggie was calmer, smoother, the businessman of the duo, but still capable of flipping into violence like a switch getting flipped. And together they were unstoppable. They ran the East End like kings. Even the cops didn't want to mess with them. Too much power, too much connections, too many people afraid to talk. But here's the thing, when you live like that, it always blows up eventually. The turning point started when Ronnie, who was already struggling mentally, decided that he didn't like a guy named George Colonel. George Colonel was a member of the Richardson gang, one of the Craze twins' biggest rivals. So one night, Ronnie just walked into a pub where Colonel was sitting having a drink, didn't say a word, and shot him in the head in front of everyone. Like in broad daylight. It was a packed bar. There were people everywhere. But still, nobody talked. Reggie's breaking point wasn't as public, but it was just as brutal. He ended up killing one of their associates, Jack the Hat McVitie, during a party. He stabbed him to death in front of so many people. It was messy, it was personal, and it was the moment the twins went from feared gangsters to reckless time bombs. Once they crossed that line, the police finally got enough courage or pressure to go after them hard. Slowly, people started talking. Not many, but enough. The Krays were arrested, tried, and finally locked away. Ronnie was put into a psychiatric institution because of his mental health, and Reggie in prison for decades. Their empire, the glamour, the clubs, the fear, it all dissolved overnight. Even after they were locked up, people still visit them, wrote about them, and made movies about them. Ronnie died on March 17, 1995, after suffering from a heart attack. And Reggie, he was released from a prison on compassionate grounds just weeks before he died from bladder cancer on October 1st of the year 2000. If you've ever been to San Diego, you've probably heard people talk about Belmont Park. Roller coasters, cotton candy, families walking around, the usual. But the thing about places like this is that the older they are, the more stories they hold. And Belmont Park, yeah, it's got some stories. So it opened way back in July 4th of 1925, right on Mission Beach, where the whole area was still being built up. And the crown jewel was the Giant Dipper, that huge old wooden roller coaster with the kind of shaky, creaky personality that makes you feel like it might collapse. But it has survived almost 100 years. People love it, still do, but behind the bright lights, it's different at night. There were accidents over the years, people getting thrown from rides back in the early days before safety was a thing. Workers getting hurt during maintenance, malfunctions causing death, and a mechanic died in a fire in a motor room of the Giant Dipper. One of the most recent deaths was literally right outside the park. A homeless man was found stabbed to death, and the perpetrators were two teens. So the park closed in 1976, and in 1989 it became a national landmark. So they began restoring it, and it opened back to the public, and it's still open till this day. And that's when the employee stories come into play. When the lights shut off and everything goes quiet. From shadows moving across the catwalks on the coaster, or footsteps in locked storage rooms, the sound of someone running on the planks behind you when you're counting the tills. People swear you can hear laughter on the Giant Dipper long after the ride stops. One of the creepiest stories is the old plunge building, a giant indoor pool that used to be one of the biggest in the world. Back in the day, it was the place to go. But when it aged, it just got an eerie, abandoned vibe, and workers would swear they hear splashing in the empty pool or saw wet footprints leading across the tile when no one was inside. When the place was renovated, people thought the weird stuff would stop and then realized it didn't. If anything, it just got more active.